Welcome, I'm Duke Pierce,
And I'm Oliver Boone.
and let's go to the movies.
We will burn out bright like at the movies, driving movies for the rest of our life. The sun and the moon, you are everything, every star I have
Alrighty,
ever
welcome.
seen shine up above
And this week,
us again.
because we are talking about one of the best movies of all time, we're going to forego our news portion so we can spend more time talking about Chinatown. So without further ado, we're going to introduce our guest. Always a movie lover, Jasmine moved to Los Angeles 4 years ago to pursue a career in acting while surrounding herself with the places and history of classic Hollywood. Graduated in 2018 with the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, she continued her education with the Academy's company in 2019 and classes at Stella Adler. Since graduating, she has found success in commercials with Dollar Shave Club, Moroccan Oil, and others, as well as the play Broken Code Bird Switching, which was headed to summer stock pre-COVID. You can find her at Jasmine Haver on Instagram. Welcome, Jasmine. And I'm not wearing this the entire time.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, welcome on.
Hi, thanks for having me.
How have you been?
I've been well.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a moment.
What have you been up to?
What have I been up to? Well, this, very exciting. I just booked another commercial for a sunglasses brand. We
very
love
cool.
that. Yes, I'm doing the 48-hour film festival with some people you may know
Oh,
this
I've heard.
weekend.
I've heard of some.
Other than that, I just got back to work, so I've been, doing that.
just doing it.
Yeah.
Well, what
Watching
movie?
movies.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Hopefully you'll
One
be
movie
watching
in
this
particular.
Yes,
consistently.
yes.
So, what movie are we going to review today?
Today, we're reviewing Chinatown.
Chinatown.
What a classic.
This is a
Absolutely.
classic, and I've only seen it twice now. I watched it again last night.
Really? Okay.
So I got to watch it 100 more times to get everything.
Yes,
of course.
It's one of those movies.
But it's so good. And I love noir movies,
Yes.
and this
Me
is
too.
one of probably the best, if not one of the best. So, initial thoughts. What is your initial thoughts?
I thought
Mr.
it
Oliver.
was like a lovely take on a noir movie. It's kind of got this it's kind of like that modern like new age like 70s filmmaking with Roman Polanski.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, when I watched it, I watched Who Framed Roger Rabbit when I was a little kid, and I didn't think I'd find as many similarities between that and Chinatown that I
Yeah.
did. But the whole reservoir scandal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, apparently it's like
It's based on a true story. I think
thing.
it's
It's like a
based on something
docudrama.
similar.
Almost.
Mulholland.
In 1908, I think is when the
With
date is.
Mulholland, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen this a couple times now, Chinatown, and I'm still confused. But I kind of
That's
love
a good
that.
thing.
I love
That's a good
that.
thing. I think that's how it's supposed
Yeah,
to be.
I do, and I was really confounded. I was like, why is this considered one of the best movies of all time? The first time I watched it, and then the second time I was like, not that I thought it was bad, just probably because I was confused and be like,
Yeah.
what is so special about this? But then I watched it again, and I was like, there it is.
Right.
Well,
And it got a little bit better.
It's seen as one of the greatest scripts of all time. I remember,
Absolutely.
I remember reading, I think it was Introduction to Screen Acting,
Mm-hmm.
Screenwriting, and Chinatown was one of the first screenplays that they started analyzing,
Yes.
breaking it down.
Right.
Yeah.
Your initial thoughts? What do you?
Oh, I loved it.
What
I mean,
screams
who
out?
doesn't love Faye Dunaway, first of
Mhm.
all? Jack Nicholson in one of his first leading roles. You know, he's amazing. John Huston.
One of my favorite directors.
I figured.
Top 5 favorite
I
directors.
figured as much. Yeah,
And-
he's fabulous.
But he's acting. I don't know John Huston as an actor.
Oh my gosh. Well, he's prolific. He's fabulous. Angelica Houston's father.
Okay.
Which is a fun fact. Jack Nicholson and Angelica Houston started dating.
Yeah.
Will you stop? That's
No.
my trivia question.
No.
We play a game at
Do
the
you know
end
who I
of
am?
trivia.
Is Jasmine one up already?
Yeah.
She is. Well, she's gonna win. I wrote the trivia down. Like, Oliver,
I'm
you have no
gonna
chance
win.
of winning.
I won
I'm
the
gonna
last
win.
time, and no one believed.
The only
I didn't
reason
believe.
You
I'm
won, but you
here.
didn't go up against Jasmine
Yeah,
Haver.
the endless, the bottomless
It's-
bucket of useless trivia facts.
But I will say, yeah, John Huston's one of my favorite directors, and
Yeah.
one of the most, I think, overlooked movies is The
Mhm.
Man Who Would Be King.
Wow,
I
good choice.
love that movie with Michael Caine and Sean Connery. But yeah, that's a
Great.
really good movie, and of course, Treasure on the Sierra Madre.
Have you seen The Misfits?
The Misfits.
I did
That's
actually
John
very
Huston.
recently.
That's
yeah.
John Huston.
Oh
He
no, I know
directed
him
that.
as a director though. I
Yeah.
don't know
Yeah.
him
As
as
an
an
actor?
actor. I've
and,
rarely seen him act.
Yeah.
and this podcast particularly was not about the Misfits, but I think she's terrible in that movie.
Who?
Marilyn Monroe.
Well, she was on the edge in that.
She
Okay,
was.
also, side tidbit, another useless factoid from me.
I love useless factoids.
That was when Arthur Miller and their marriage was dissolving. It was on the downhill. So people who have worked on the crew, as well as like other actors in the movie, said that he used to rewrite pages of dialogue the morning of shooting.
Wow.
Just to trip her up and
Yeah, I
show
read
that
about
she
that, yeah.
was unprofessional and she didn't have her lines memorized, because of course that was one of the tropes that people used to say about Marilyn Monroe. So he did that on purpose, because he wrote the screenplay, just to undermine her. Wow, shady dog.
Arthur Miller.
Jack Wagon.
I know.
Not so nice.
Yeah, not so nice. And also,
Great writer, a bit of an asshole.
a bit of an asshole, and
Surprise.
also,
Yeah.
I don't like The Crucible.
Ooh, another bit of spicy tea.
We are going down the rabbit hole.
I
I just
know.
don't. I'm sorry. It's boring and it's so allegorical.
Don't say that in front of the person who literally was in that play a couple moons
You
ago.
weren't boring.
Oh, that's
Actually,
nice.
I don't know. He might have been
That's
boring.
I don't remember
I
me in
remember
The
seeing it.
Crucible.
And it's
I think I saw it with you. Maybe not. I don't remember.
maybe if I was there, you'd probably remember. Anyways,
Chinatown.
Chinatown. We got a little off track there,
Forget
but
it,
forget about it. Forget about it.
Very
I
good.
really like this movie, and but like I said, I love noir, and one of the things I really liked about this movie, in that sense, is that and Roger Ebert had a quote about this that I want to read.
Yeah, it's one of his favorite movies.
It is. Where did I put it? It's right here. Okay, it's a 1940s private eye movie that doesn't depend on nostalgia or camp for its effect, but works because of the enduring strength of the genre itself. In some respects, this movie actually could have been made in the 1940s. It accepts its conventions and categories at face value and doesn't try to filter them through a modern sensibility. Here's a private eye movie in which all the traditions, romantic as they may seem, are left intact. And I thought about that the entire movie. I was like, because I think we've entered a time of cinema where we're harping for the old days, but movies don't do that.
Right.
They trope you into remember. I think Star Wars is the worst at this. Is they trope you into remembering the days of when Star Wars was good, but without actually like being what made Star Wars good. You know what I mean?
Well,
Because
with the Star Wars movies, they're kind of, I don't know, they're almost kind of like, they follow so much the same formula as the previous ones.
But like Force Awakens was A New Hope.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it was there was the Death Star. Like it was just the Death Star story again. But instead of creating something that just was what Star Wars was, which actually I think Rogue One does a good job of, it tries to pull on your. It's sentimental in a ways that.
Oh, for sure.
But this movie I don't think does that. I think it just it bees what it bees. You know, it's a noir film, and it
I
doesn't
hope not.
try to. But
Yeah.
as we see, like as the movie unfolds, if you haven't seen Chinatown, first off, that's bad. You should see it. Second off, you're about to hear a lot of spoilers.
I was gonna say, do we do spoilers?
We
here?
do spoilers because
Okay.
I mean it's.
I mean, we kind of, if we're going to go into like
If
a,
we're
like
gonna
a
review a
40
film,
to an
you
hour
gotta-
long analysis,
Yeah.
we don't want to talk about the first 10 minutes.
The way it turns into how the father raped her, like that
Yeah.
probably wouldn't have come out in the 1940s,
Right.
just because of how dark it is.
Right.
So it
Good
does.
point.
It takes the style, and
It evolves it.
But yeah, it gives it
But in a
something-
positive way that doesn't like compromise the integrity of the genre, which I think is important. I think sometimes we lose that.
In some aspects, I wouldn't have been able to tell if I hadn't looked it up when the movie was set in a way.
Yeah.
In a sense, like it could have been like the
Right.
30s, the 40s, like 50s,
Mm-hmm.
but just it felt so modern, which I
Yeah.
loved. Like a lot of the camera shots. I mean, I think my favorite one was as the cars pulling into I think it's the vineyard, and you see like a figure walking in like
Yeah.
the mirror. I was just like, I don't like other movies from that time. I don't feel like they were starting to get more experimental with their shots.
Well, one of the things that I noticed a lot watching it yesterday was how much of it is handheld,
Yes.
or
Yeah.
it has that shake.
Well, did you notice that so many shots it's told from Jake's perspective? So
Right.
a lot of the shots, the camera's placed behind his shoulders, so you're getting like his perspective and like when he's looking through the photos and stuff. So I think that handheld just slightly bit of motion that gives us like like we're looking at it through
We
his
see
eyes.
things when he sees things.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I think
love
what
that.
separates it a little bit from what we conceive as handheld in modern movies is that everything's choreographed to a certain extent.
Absolutely.
It's not all over the place, which I can't stand.
Yeah.
I'm like, am I drunk?
I'm getting nauseous.
But it's like it's a subtlety to it, and
Yeah.
it's like when he beats up the guy outside of the nursing home.
Yes.
It's most of the time it's with the violence, I believe, is when it goes handheld.
I think so.
But it might be a little bit some other times too. But it's just the way the fight's choreographed and the way the cameras just kind of fall. Yeah, it's that's the kind of handheld I can get behind.
Yeah.
So obviously we all liked it. What the thoughts on direction? What are your thoughts?
I really enjoyed it. I've only seen a few of Roman Polanski's films, mainly Rosemary's Baby. That's primarily how I know him. So I've only seen, I feel like, a very specific part of his canon, but I loved it. I really, really enjoyed it. I liked everything about it. I thought the direction for this film, I thought just kind of held its hand and let the screenplay and the acting really kind of lead the way. But I think it's very distinct in some of the way that he shoots it and in the ending. I think especially because, it was his first time back in the States since Sharon Tate.
I think it was 5 years.
Yeah,
since,
that was the first time he was back. So, I think we'll talk about the ending later, but I think that just, that's also a little bit of his trademark, that there aren't always Hollywood endings. You know what I mean? So I think knowing his background as a person and then seeing the movie, I think it only like further kind of melds it.
I was thinking about talking about his background and his history, because it's also a bit.
I have
He's
a hard
got a spicy.
I have a hard time
life.
watching him just because of watching his film, which is sad because he did make some great films, but
It's a troubled person.
it's like.
But you can still enjoy the film. You can still enjoy the
Yeah,
art.
I think in a lot of ways you can, especially since he's not on screen. Like, it's hard to watch Kevin Spacey.
Well, he is on screen.
He is on
He
screen.
is on
He's
screen.
the
He's the guy with the knife.
Yeah.
That's the
He's
role
not-
I would
he's-
want to play. Just to
Which
come in.
did you
just like,
notice? Did you notice when they do the shot and like you see Jack Nicholson about to get cut, the knife is turned out, so like the sharp side's out, but then after it gets cut, the dull side is out.
Okay.
Yeah, because obviously.
He didn't know.
Is that another trivia question?
Did I win? What do I win? A new car?
+2.
We're gonna move on. But director Sidney Lumet talks about it, and I'll quote him. I've already
I
quoted
love
him in
him.
another.
Love him.
I just read his book over the
I haven't
being in
read it.
pause.
Yeah.
And Making Movies is what it's called. And yeah, he's another one of my top 5 favorite directors. And he says we do all this work, and a lot of it you don't see, because that's the point of the work.
Right.
Is not seen.
Right.
Like, so in 12 Angry Men,
Yeah.
it gets the camera gets lower and lower as the film progresses. It starts off high,
Yeah.
and then as the film
I've
progresses,
read about that. Yeah.
it becomes lower and lower until you're equal with the characters.
Right.
But
Very
if you don't read about it, you don't know.
Well, then as it goes even lower,
Mhm.
so it's becoming more and more claustrophobic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, and the last shot, it's very high.
Aren't those the wonderful things about cinema, that like you don't think about it, but you notice it when you watch it, only because like it creates the full product for you. But when you read about little things like that, you're like, oh my god, I did
was
notice
claustrophobic
that.
by the
like
end of
I
the
did
movie.
feel
Yeah.
that. That totally did
So
have that
I
effect.
think
on me.
That's exactly how I feel with Chinatown, though. I
Yes.
feel like
That's
there's
what-
so
yeah.
much that I could still discover watching it again. And
Right.
Right.
And but
Right.
it also, it's like you don't see the directing. You don't
Right.
see the direction.
Right.
You don't see. It's
Yeah.
just there. And like the thing about always being behind Jack Nicholson's character, you get the sense that this movie is from his perspective.
Right.
Like when you watch it, you go.
I mean, you find things
yeah.
out when he finds things out.
Yeah.
You know,
And
we're
that's the-
on that journey side by side with him. It's not like we know something
Mm-hmm.
that maybe he doesn't know yet. It's like we literally find everything out at the same time.
And I love movies that have smart characters.
Yes. of
Characters
course.
that are
Yeah.
smart, and all of
Yeah.
them are intelligent characters.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they don't do things stupidly, or everything they do is thought out. And I realized this when he puts the timers behind
The
the
watches, yeah.
the watches. He sets the watches and
Yeah.
puts them behind the tire.
Yeah.
So when he backs up, he knows when they left.
That's
So
smart.
he's just an intelligent guy. However, he has, he's the victim of himself.
Of course.
By the end of the movie,
Yes.
everything that kind of happens is because of what he did, because of what he thought was right in a sense, and what because he wants to get to the case for his own to the bottom of the case for his own purposes.
Right. I mean, he wants to prove that he
He's
can
the
do
hero.
his job. Yeah, and that it's not because, like he says when he's talking to Evelyn, it's like I'm here to help your husband, but like this is mainly for myself because I take a lot of pride in what I do. I don't want to be a joke in this town.
And that's classic noir.
Right.
That's the noir character. He's
Right.
obsessed with himself
Yeah.
and how he sees.
Right. And when
the
you
world.
put that kind of character next to sort of a femme fatale kind of character, especially Faye Dunaway, I feel like she's such a force to
The
be reckoned
best,
with.
the greatest femme
Yeah.
fatale.
She's
I think.
fabulous.
She's
She
great.
is so
And I love her. And
fabulous.
she's another one of my favorite movies.
Network?
Network.
Yeah,
It just.
we should do that sometime.
She
We
won.
should.
She won the Oscar for that, didn't she?
She's actually nominated for Chinatown.
Yeah. I mean,
nominated for
Chinatown
25.
got 11 nominations. That's crazy.
And I want to talk about that a little bit later too.
Yeah.
About do we think they should have won more? Do
How
you
many-
think
how many-
Godfather Part 2 is better?
I don't know. I didn't look at the Oscars for this.
Godfather Part 2 won Best Picture. I don't know.
I mean, that goes into the debate about why certain films and certain actors, etc., win, and whether it's about the actual product or if it's about the place it holds in film history or the canon, etc. So that's an interesting.
I know as well. There is a very. I'm trying to remember. I think it may have been Strasbourg. That's in Godfather Part 2.
Yeah, he was nominated. I don't think he won.
I know. Well, I mean, personally, I think he's probably more nominated because of his background
His,
rather than the
being
Right,
the
so
legend
he
of.
is.
Same with Godfather Part 2. There's
Yeah.
a lot of hype that comes with that.
Oh, absolutely. And
Chinatown
the,
stuck
and the
with
first
us so
one,
much.
and I'm not. Godfather is good. I'm not a huge fan of it, and I understand its impact on cinema and why it's so important, and why it was important for the time.
I love the first one.
Yeah.
I can take or leave the second.
Mhm.
I like moments in the second.
Don't talk about the third.
No, we don't talk
I
about
don't even know
the
if I've
first.
seen it.
That's the redheaded stepchild.
Sophia Coppola is a wonderful director.
Yes, she is. Marie Antoinette is fabulous. Virgin Suicides is fabulous, but yeah.
But one other thing I wanted to talk about the character of Jake is that he's a nihilist, which is classic noir, but he's a nice one.
He is a
What do you
nice
mean?
one.
What do you
Nice
mean by
guy.
a nihilist?
He is down in the dumps. He's just
Yeah. When he goes and someone asks him, "Are you alone?" He says, "Isn't everyone?"
yeah.
That's
such
my
a
favorite line.
perfect. It's one of my favorites too. It's perfect noir line
That's funny.
where it's like, yeah, of course he thinks that.
Right.
But he's really nice.
Yeah.
Like at the beginning, he tells the woman who's come to
Right.
hire him to find out if his
To go
her
home.
wife is, he's like, go home.
Yeah,
I-
drop
it
it.
probably
if
is.
you love your husband, just go home.
Mhm.
You're probably right, but just go home.
And he goes, he probably loves you.
Right.
It's
Don't
he's
they
going
always?
through something and right.
I think he's got a great moral compass for like
Absolutely.
the type of neo-noir
Mhm.
detective.
Which
And
I
he-
think
and
is why the ending,
just takes a big old crap on.
right?
Yeah.
Because it's
He's
I mean
playing
the
a
ending
rigged
is
game.
fabulous. When I was reading about how there were talks about a different ending,
I
I was
read
like,
that, yeah.
no. The reason
Yeah.
we're still talking about Chinatown is because of the ending.
Absolutely.
You
And I
know?
think it was the screenwriter
Yes.
and Polanski that
And
argued
Polanski.
about it.
Yeah. Someone wanted a happy ending, and they were
Mhm.
like, no.
Compared to plays, movies often are changed to have a
Yeah.
Right.
more
Well, Hollywood
uplifting
likes
ending.
to make and
It's because that's what sells tickets.
Exactly.
That
and
makes
I'm
money.
not.
Yeah.
I don't hate that. A lot of people like Hollywood's just a bunch of happy endings, especially if they come from the theater. And I don't hate that. It's like the theater is depressing and the cinema is happy.
That's
I'm
an
fine
interesting
with that.
take. I've never thought of that, but that's very true.
Right. And I think the only reason why we're still talking about Chinatown
Yeah.
is because cinema's so happy. It's like I do love dark endings. I love Roman Holiday because they don't get together.
Right.
I love the ending of that movie.
That's why
but
you
if-
like that movie?
It's
I
one
mean,
of the
go
reasons.
That's a
on.
very
that's
weird
fine.
reason
That's-
why
It's
Yeah,
one of
that's
my.
why
It's one of the things I love about that movie.
Sure.
Is because all the other movies from that time period they would have gotten together.
Especially Audrey movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, but
Classic
it's I was at the end of the movie. It's like, please don't get with each other. Please don't get with each other. Please don't get. It's not
Don't invite
because
him to your wedding.
yeah.
not
Yeah.
because I'm not sentimental, but because I'm all
It's
about
not realistic.
right, and
don't
I'm all
always have a
about
happy
breaking the
ending.
mold. I'm
Yeah.
all about, and it's one of the reasons I like Scorsese so much is
Sure.
because he just revolutionized the game,
Yeah, he did.
and I'm all about doing things that taking you for a ride of which you think it's going to end this way.
Yeah.
But I'm going to end it something different.
Well, I feel like in Chinatown, every time you get an answer to a question, there's
5 more come up.
Yeah. It's
Mhm.
like you can never get ahead, which I like because then you're never bored.
Mhm.
You know, like you're never able to disengage and say like, oh, I'm watching a movie right now. You know, it's like the stakes and the pacing just move so
the
fluidly.
pacing's
that,
amazing.
you know?
Watching Faye Dunaway for like maybe it was like the 3rd or 4th time I've seen this now.
Yes.
But just the first moment I see it, you can just see like her brain, like her character's brain,
Yeah.
like ticking, and there's so much vulnerability
Of course.
in like her just trying to keep composed.
Right.
And we haven't really touched on it, but I don't think anybody else could have played this part.
Well,
other than
Jane
Jack
Fonda
Nicholson.
was in talks for it, and I love Jane Fonda, but you know, I just think that sometimes actresses or actors are, you know, destined. It's just a perfect fit, and
But
I think Faye Dunaway was perfect.
It's the same
this.
for Jake.
Yes.
Can you think of anybody else playing it?
I feel like, but wasn't this partly even inspired or like written for Jack Nicholson? Not
Yes.
inspired.
Wrote
Yeah.
it with him in mind.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And he does it. He captures the role
Oh, he's fabulous.
in a way that Nicholson. He's a fantastic actor, but you said something the other day. It was like you can always kind of see Jack Nicholson in a role,
Yeah, he's
Mhm.
a bit like rebellious
right? And
Yeah.
but this one, he kind of just lets the role be him.
for sure.
He's not the
Yeah.
role. The role is him, and a part
Yeah.
of that is because it's so well written.
Right.
I have a philosophy that actors do about 67% of the work,
Mhm.
but that other 40% is writing. And if the
I would
writing's-
almost think that it's the other way around because
But
you can't make a good
right.
movie out of a bad screenplay. It's
Mhm.
never been done.
Well,
Right.
You
Drive. They cut out all the dialogue.
That's true.
They
See,
cut out
there
all
you
the
have
dialogue.
it. There you have it.
yeah, and he hits every note, and I love that you find out things with him.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
And as you go, you get the clues, and you're like, God, well, you're trying to piece it together as he's trying to piece it together.
Well, you really, you're rooting for him.
Mm-hmm. But you love movies, so
I
I
do.
expected. This is why I wanted to have you on,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I knew you were going to go above and beyond and be
I
a
do love
wonderful
movies.
guest.
Thanks.
So yeah, so let's talk about. You said you took some notes on the themes.
Sure.
So what jumps out at you? What's
Okay,
your-
I mean, the ones that come to mind, the Holy Trinity, money, power, corruption.
Mhm.
I mean,
Definitely corruption for me.
yeah. Oh man,
Right.
there's so much. It's so ugly. There's so much corruption
Mhm.
in this movie. It's so unsettling because I mean, again, we'll talk about that when we get to the ending and everything like that. But I don't know. I also think that between the incest and the murder
Mhm.
being the crimes, you know-
Houston, I don't know have his acting philosophy,
right?
but it almost seems like he I can't remember what we call it now, but it's when you study an animal.
Oh,
And-
Is that Chekhov? No, that's not.
Grotowski, maybe.
Hmm.
It might be Chekhov. I don't know. I
don't know.
can't
Don't
remember.
quote me on that.
Yeah,
Grotowski,
it's,
Chekhov.
sorry. We should
Fight.
cut this out. We should find it and then just dub it in. But the way he moves, he's like a salamander.
He's an interesting creature just as a
Mhm.
whole, let alone, you know, when he's acting and directing. He's someone that I find that whole family, the Houston family, is very prolific, but I would love to have lived inside his brain
Mm-hmm.
for just like a day, just
Right.
to feel and understand his thought process and the way he thinks and sees things. He's very intriguing to me. Very strange. I can't put my finger on his style. Makes me uncomfortable, but in a good way.
Right.
You know, like in a way that I almost enjoy because it's interesting and it's compelling.
Oh, he's.
I can't picture
fascinating.
anyone else playing that role. I think he brings
And-
a lot of greatness
Yeah,
to
he
it.
just moves and he squirms and he
Well, he's
yeah.
slimy and he knows
Mhm.
it and he knows he's getting away with it. Who's going to stop him?
It kind of
Right.
reminded me a little maybe of Laurence Olivier's character in is it Marathon?
Marathon was the one with Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little of that, just kind of like this like huge villain with like a very
Mhm.
deep dark secret.
Yeah, and that scene, well, because he's only in 2 scenes. 3 scenes, I think.
Mhm.
There's 3 scenes he's in. He's in the first one,
Mhm.
and the one he shows up to the house, and then the final scene.
It just looked like you flipped off
Yeah,
Jasmine.
camera.
What
We can
else
blur
is
it out.
new? Yeah.
Whoops. Sorry, Mom. But the first scene he's in, it's just great. The what's not being said,
Yeah, I mean that's a very. I mean that's proof that it's not just telling; it's showing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? He's an example of an actor who is truly being his character. He's really like fully. I find that sometimes in contemporary acting, some actors, it stops in the body or it stops in nonverbal and body language and just etc. You know, just things that really make a rounded out real human being. Mm-hmm. And I think he is fully realized. You know, he head to toe, which when you find out the stuff at the end that he does, going into the movie knowing what I know about the end, when I watch it again, I'm so uncomfortable by him because I'm like, you are slimy.
I forgot watching the second time. I had forgotten about the daughter.
Yeah, he's disgusting.
When you comes to the scene of when you find out
it's
Faye Dunaway's
sinister.
been taken by her, it's
so sinister.
It is. And you start to question what are these people's motivation? Like what and it's the world they live in.
I wonder if maybe it's just because I come from a different time. We come from a different time, but watching Jack Nicholson slap that out of Faye Dunaway, I was very uncomfortable.
I really wanted him to. I wanted to lay in the "you can't handle the truth" line. He's just like,
my sister, my daughter.
I said I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
He was uncomfortable in that scene because
she told him
to slap
hit her.
Yeah.
Oh my god! Imagine.
He was like, I don't want to do it.
It looked like he really smacked the shit out of her too. Like I feel like no sound effects were necessary for that.
Right, and I think it is supposed to be a level of uncomfortability because that's what this movie is so deep in so many ways, and there's so many different avenues. Yeah. But their relationship, it's on again and off again, and it's like, and if I had to have a criticism.
Sure.
One, if I had I wish there was, and the movie's already pretty long, but I wish there would have been a little bit more definition of how he felt for her going into the ending.
They did sort of hop into bed and then pop out and then.
I like he kind of cares for her, but he wants the truth so badly that he will beat it out of her.
He quite literally beats the truth out of her.
I'm not a fan of it. I don't know. It's just it's too much. That was I like Jack Nicholson was on my side.
Do you know what I mean? Like
very 1970s playing 1930s.
Right. Oh my God, makes me very.
But you can't understand
like Betty Davis or Joan Crawford. Or
Benny Davis said, I think Faye Dunaway was like the only actor of that generation that she felt like had the stuff.
And you know what's? I think actually it was Joan Crawford who said that, which makes this even more hilarious. Betty Davis condemned her. She thought she was just a pain in the ass, which is hilarious because if you know the feud between Betty Davis and Joan Crawford, that's even funnier. Also, Joan was already passed by the time that Faye played her in Mommy Dearest, so that's almost,
Oh, that's
crazy.
That's why I'm getting mixed up.
You know? That's crazy. But hilarious. They already had their feud, and then add Faye to it.
I've heard Faye Dunaway it can be very difficult on set.
Yeah,
that's what I've heard.
Do you know the story
her and
about
Roman Polanski went.
Do we believe that? Do we believe that story?
I don't know if I know the story.
Can I tell it?
Sure.
Okay, so they're filming a scene in the car, right? And Polanski wants. Yeah, this is quite literally.
Oh, it is
gossip
Chinatown.
Because we don't know if it's true, and Faye says it's not true. Who knows? They're filming the scene in the car. She needs a bathroom break. Polanski says, "Nah, we're filming. Deal with it." The legend goes she peed in a cup. He leaned down to give her a direction, and she tossed a cup of her pee all over his face. Power move.
Yeah,
it's very power move.
When there's also a story.
Did that to me though, I don't care who you are. If someone did that to me, everyone would know about it. So I don't know. I really can't decide if it's true or not.
Right, but there's also a story of like he pulled her hair at some point too.
Yeah, he pulled a hair out because it was being lit wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know. There was an interview that right after the film was made, they both said that they hated working with each other. But then a little bit later on, like through the years, they both were like, no. But, it worked because I think they both realized how special the project was. And I think sometimes when you're in it, it's really hard to kind of get perspective and stuff. But when you look back on it, you're like, well, it needed to be that way but that's also the question of how much directors kind of push to get a certain performance.
I think it's changed over the years. A
I
lot.
agree.
I think, like from like the
Well,
Stanley Kubrick age.
Yeah.
Woof.
Yeah, you can't
Woof.
be
Yeah.
as aggressive.
Can we go to the ending? Can we talk about
We
it?
will get to the
Okay.
ending.
I'm just
Oliver.
so excited. I have a point.
I love it.
Well,
I'm
write
so
it
excited.
down. Why don't you have a pen?
Do you need a pen?
all-
I have one. I was
all-
gifted
it's all in
one.
the mind. I have some notes on my phone as well.
Oh my God.
I'm ready. I'm good to go.
I think you're underprepared. And I had a great point too, and then we went off on gossip hour.
Who did that?
What's unusual about this being a Hollywood movie is that there's not a whole lot that in this movie that Hollywood producers injected into movies.
Well, yeah, this was right on the cusp in between, like, right before the new Hollywood era, if you will, ended, before, like, the big blockbusters, quote unquote, became a thing. You know, so this is still when, like, the directors and the writers could run a little wild and do what they wanted for the art rather than for, you know, the box office sales. This is sort of, like, coming to the end of that era. And I think watching this movie just makes me miss that era.
Right.
Because it's, you know, it's natural and things happen for a reason, not just because, oh, we have two big box office draw stars, we have to have a nude scene.
I feel like every shot is like propelling the story forward more.
Absolutely.
Like everything has a purpose.
Absolutely. If not multiple purposes.
Sure.
You know, so there's a lot of foreshadowing in the film, a lot of, you know, hints.
Everything gets brought back from like the beginning.
Everything we need to know is pretty much revealed in the first act.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's just brought back.
Well, but one of the things I really like is that I love movies that don't give exposition on characters.
Yeah.
I even love movies that don't really give exposition at all. I talked about a movie written by Elaine May in our last episode called Mikey and Nicky. It has John Cassavetes and Peter Falk.
Yeah.
And
Ugh.
there's no exposition in that movie. You
Yeah.
learn about everything as you go. And in this Chinatown, I don't know if it does that so much, but it doesn't give character exposition.
Right.
Everything you learn about the characters, you learn through the course of the movie. Like, you know them by the end of the movie, but you didn't. The movie didn't tell you
Right.
who these people are.
Right.
And if you know noir, you kind of know some of the stereotypes.
Yeah.
But like I said earlier, Nicholson's character breaks some of those. He's nice. He's nihilistic, but he's really nice. You
Well,
know?
Faye Dunaway, her character's story is also tragic. She's not a Black Widow, you know, which is typically, like, if you think of Barbara Stanwyck or if you think of Mary Astor, like your normal, your typical femme fatale, film noir leading ladies. She is not. She is that in some ways, but she's a victim in a lot of other ways. You know, her story is very tragic, and
Absolutely.
I think when you see the ending, you understand why she behaved the way, a little bit anyway, in the beginning. Just because this one, I don't know. She's a different. They're both, you know, they play on the characters in the genre, but they also slightly change it.
Right, and there's something you just said that made me think about is they both are outsiders,
Absolutely.
which is the cornerstone of noir.
Absolutely.
Is the usually it's the detective
Sure.
that's the outsider,
Right.
but they're both outside fighting. Well, she's fighting to get out, and it's almost like he's and maybe he's just fighting to survive.
He is missing that like cynicism that you get with the typical like Humphrey Bogart.
I was just gonna say, if you're familiar with Maltese Falcon, it's like he's the Bogart type, but
Which
he's less
is
angry.
directed
Absolutely.
by John Huston.
But he's less angry. He's a less angry Bogart, you know, which I think is it's very interesting with Nicholson, because I feel like Nicholson he can do angry well, you know, like
He's
his
brilliant at
characters
The
are-
Departed, and
right.
that's I think that's pristine
pure,
Nicholson.
unadulterated, you know, and
I always
he's
think of
not
Cuckoo's Nest when I think
Yeah.
of Nicholson.
absolutely, and
He does crazy really well.
Hellraiser.
and he didn't do this, and I loved him in this role. I thought he did it fantastic. I thought he was fantastic. I really did. So even though it was slightly, you know, I think in some ways it was kind of off-brand for him, but in other ways I think it was fabulous, because I think that his performance was very compelling and a little, you know, like there's something that you're not quite understanding, but you're rooting for him, which is I think how I personally feel about a lot of his characters. You know, you don't really understand him completely, but you want him to succeed, or you want him to win.
I think he kind of stands up to the system.
Yes.
You know, he does the
He
things
does what
that
other people don't.
we would want to do. Yeah.
And
exactly.
I'm just thinking of something, and like I just said a minute ago, it's like I love things that bend your expectations.
Yes.
And maybe he is such an outsider of the genre in certain ways. But if you look at all the characters around him, like his other cop buddies, John Huston's character in a way, he's the big evil guy.
Right.
They're all classic noir characters.
Of course.
And I mean the other cops are as shoe gum as they get. You know? So I wonder if that's deliberate in the sense of maybe he's an outsider in some ways to the genre. When all the other characters are living in the genre.
Yeah, and I mean he comes into this world.
And her in certain ways too.
Right.
Definitely.
Right. And I mean he comes into this world and he's trying to make sense of it. And no one will be honest with him. You know, he can't get the truth from anybody, but he's just trying to understand it. Even after they sleep together. You know, he could have just let her go. He could have just let her go do whatever she needed to do after the
And
phone
probably
call.
would have been a better option.
Right.
If he just let her go.
You know, but he never finished it. He has to finish the job.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's why I think it would have had a little bit more punch if there was a little bit more of a, I don't know, maybe a little scene at showing some love or something between them. I think it would have given the ending a little bit more impact.
A little kiss after the slap.
Yeah. Something like that.
That's your style.
Whoa.
Talking about outsiders of the genre, I never knew that Uncle Paulie from the Rocky movies was in Chinatown. That took me out of the series a little.
When you see an actor that you only know as one character in something else, and you're like, what are you doing in this world?
But I really love that. I really love that they bring that character from the beginning all the way back. Like every single person shot, they have a purpose in the film. And,
absolutely. And
I feel like it steps right into what we're talking about, like the sex scene not being gratuitous in any way. Like,
and when there is, and even on that note, and when there is violence, it's real. Yeah. It's not
glamorous. It's not glamorous.
There's nothing glamorous about it. There's no over-the-topness really about it.
Does anyone else like flinch and cringe when he gets his nose slashed? Like you can almost feel it.
And then that's so interesting that he's bandaged the rest of the movie.
I know.
Is there
I almost wore the bandage today.
Did you?
Yeah.
I brought my hat.
I brought nothing.
You black.
I brought my Uncle Paulie.
He brought that. I think that was pretty good. I think that was pretty good.
But is there a line about him getting like his beak wet or something, Jack Nicholson? Because that's what I see when I when he's got the bandaged nose, kind of like he's
If not, they missed a good opportunity.
Because I think Roman Polanski's character maybe says something about nosing around.
Yes.
Exactly. You know what happens when you're nosy. Yeah, something like that.
Exactly. And when it starts bleeding, you really feel it.
Yeah, I mean, he's also a hothead.
Jake?
Or
Jake. Nicholson. Or both. I suppose.
Oh, do you know Nicholson? Like,
I wish.
A little. I don't know. Because
you know him a little?
Jack Nicholson being a hothead. I don't think he's that much of a... I don't know. For this performance, I feel like he keeps a lot of it on the inside.
He's talking about the performance. That's great. No. The character is a little bit of a hothead. But he does keep it down. But like in the barber scene, which is one of the early scenes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he has integrity in his work. He really values what he does, which I think is one of the only pieces of exposition, if you will, that we get. Like, clearly, he cares a lot about what he does. And he cares about his reputation in the town. So much that, he really goes for this guy that he doesn't even know. He even asked the barber if he's a regular or not. Like, he doesn't even know him, and he really goes for his throat. Like, he gets so upset just at the thought that this man thinks that what Jake does is slimy, So it's like, if we see this reaction in the beginning, that's why we're not surprised that he never stops, that he follows it through all the way to
Which
the
also
end.
he sees this banker putting himself like above Jack Nicholson for what he does.
And that is such a brilliant scene in many ways. But in one way it's because he just bites back at him for his job. It's like, you're a banker. You move people out of your home.
Yeah, you kick people out on the street, which, I mean, I was like, yeah, he does. Like,
right, but it's like, and one of the things I love about noir and what it does really well is it shows how every human's a hypocrite in some way.
Right.
You know? And it's like, you're sitting there accusing me of being a slime ball, and what I do, in certain ways, what he is kind of slimy.
But he's not the one that put the story in the paper either.
Right.
He doesn't do it for that. He does it, honestly, I think he does it for the money. You know, I mean, so many people, everyone in this movie is in for what they do for the money.
Right.
You know, I think Jake a little bit is in it for his reputation, for the integrity, but at the end of the day, you know, he was hired.
It's almost like he knows one thing to do.
Right.
And that's how he's going to make his money. And
right.
he, you know, couldn't make it as a cop.
Right.
Or he didn't want to make it as a cop.
Yeah, absolutely.
We never really get the answer to that.
I feel like the villain of Chinatown is the system. Mm-hmm. When like I think that's another way how it subverts like the typical like typical noir film, because like you don't have. I mean, I guess you have Roman Polanski and the other guy, but you don't really have typical gangsters in this film. You know?
Yeah, right. I mean, the villain is the corruption in all of the systems. Mm-hmm. You know, when we're introduced to Lou Escobar, when we knew him as a lieutenant and now he's a captain, it pretty much just tells you, okay, if you don't try to punish the powerful, if you don't go for the big guys, then you can be captain too. You know, if you let them do what they want to do, if you let evil win, then you can get promoted as well. You know, which is, I will not start the dialogue on how apropos that situation is. But, you know, but it's like, even, you know, that film was made in the 70s, set in the 30s, and how much of what we know present day about, you know, governments being corrupted, how everything is wealth driven, everyone's just looking for the wealth. You know, Mr. Cross is looking for the wealth in water because that's where he knows that it is. He wants more money and the wealth is in water.
And it's like that, but he has that line at the end of it being, why do you need more money? You know, but it's not about.
He wants to own the future.
Right.
He wants to own the future of Los Angeles.
Right, and it's almost like and I even think maybe it is greater than money, or at least on the same playing field, is the idea that we're still around after we're dead. It's like that old saying is that you die twice. Once when they put you in the earth, and another when the last person you know says your name for the last time.
Yeah.
Powerful men are often what drives them is their name. Their name still being around after they're gone. And their children being, you know, wealthy and powerful after they're gone.
Like The Crucible, which you hate. That's the whole point of The Crucible, my friend.
Is it?
Yeah,
I missed that
name.
theme.
No, never mind. Carry on.
I still like The Crucible.
It's a good point. It's a great point.
I had to read in high school. It's just awful. It's not awful. It's just not good. And it's funny.
Yeah.
The movie's pretty funny at points. I loved when he's telling the joke to his buddies. And you don't even pay attention to the joke. But you're just paying attention to the fact that Faye Dunaway's behind
Another
it.
thing that, like, again, if this film was made in 2020...
Right.
You know, it's like that joke. I mean, the whole thing, so much of it, you know, it's like, it's a little,
Yeah.
Right, but in a sense, it also puts us in the world that these characters live in. Like, and he
I
even
think
tells the
it's
secretary
perfect
to leave.
It's,
you know?
Right, because it's very distasteful. So it gives her, like, she already knows this person as, in her eyes, a moron.
Right.
You know, like, she thinks he's just, you know, like, oh, I've never spoken to you, I've never met you, let alone hired you to do anything in regards to my husband, you know? And then she's standing there, and he's making an ass of himself.
Oh, yeah.
Which, you know, and of course his two associates are standing there trying to help him, which is classic. You know, he doesn't get the message until it's too late. Classic. But yeah, I mean, it gives us...
It's like vaudeville.
Right. Yeah. And then again, we are seeing it unfold in front of us in real time. We're seeing her interpretation. I mean, it's just like, it's such an easy kill. You know what I mean? Like,
and
just making
Nicholson
it too
has
easy.
the best time. It just plays that off so well when he turns around and sees her, and he's like,
right.
Yeah, it's well done. And it's classic filmmaking because you're not paying attention to the words that are being said. You're paying attention to the situation. I actually went back. I rewinded to find out what the joke is.
The joke is so long.
It's so long, and it's really not even that funny.
I know.
It's like, what, is there,
I don't know if I got it.
Yeah, it's like, I don't think I didn't really get it. It's like, is there a punchline here? Like, what?
No.
I don't.
He certainly thought there was.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't.
He thought it was hilarious.
He did, and I think that's the point. I don't think you're obviously not supposed to be paying attention to the joke. The joke doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Doesn't
Maybe it's
matter,
a time
really.
period thing.
Really doesn't
but
matter.
it doesn't matter at all.
Right.
And I think the scene's hilarious.
I think it's a red herring.
Mhm.
I mean, there's a lot of those in this story, but I think that, you know what I mean? Because, like you said, you're listening sort of in your peripherals, but you're mainly watching to see everyone else's, like, how they're behaving.
It's the reactions which is more important.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Time to give Ollie what he wants? Ending time?
I hate it when you phrase it like that. Never want to give what Holly wants.
I know, this is just your
very-
podcast.
It's very
It's
one-sided
mine.
There's not
relationship.
two people here. Yeah.
It's okay, dear. It's gonna be fun.
We are a very odd couple, I feel.
It is a little
And I
bit.
appreciate it.
One of the things right before we get into the ending, I want to say is that I'm teasing a little
You're
bit.
so close.
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Um,
I'll wait for
you
my
find
dessert.
out the ending throughout the whole movie.
You do.
He says it multiple times. He's like, the reason I don't go to Chinatown anymore is because there was a girl
Right.
who I got too involved with, and I could have saved her, and I didn't.
Yeah. I mean, his whole
What
goal
happens
was
at the
to
end of the
not
movie?
hurt her.
Yeah.
And then he hurt her.
Yeah.
And then the ending of the movie happens.
This is one of my favorite endings in film history.
Oh, it's
I think it.
astonishing. Yeah, it's amazing.
I think it's perfect. I think everything comes together in the end by not
Right.
the story.
And it's so here we are. We're talking about the ending now.
We made it.
Nice, I'm glad we made that.
Yeah, we made the delineation that now it's the ending.
Ollie,
And-
you
and
can
the-
talk now.
And there you go. No, the reason is we're making that delineation is because it is one of the best, maybe if not the best ending of a film. I think I can say that because you're right. It becomes so everything ties together, and one of the great things about the movie is that you truly don't know how it's going to end.
Well, yeah, it's like, where can this go? This is just getting uglier and uglier. How is
Right.
this all going to come to a head?
And if you know noir, and if you know film, you go, this is going to end. She's going to get away. Houston's going to go to jail.
Mm-hmm.
But you get to the end,
Wow, yeah.
and the police officers are there,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like one of the, I think, really cool things about the movie is you don't know which side the police are on.
Right. I mean, you just, yeah. Absolutely.
And it's so, but you don't, at least I didn't suspect that they were bad, and I didn't suspect they were good.
No, but they're ambivalent,
Yeah.
Right, but
you know?
But you know the minute
Yeah.
when she goes, no, he owns them.
Yeah.
That's when you know this is not going to end well.
Right. Of course. Well, again, where's the money?
Mm-hmm.
And where's the control with
And
money?
you go, of course he owns the police. Why
Right.
wouldn't he own the police?
Right. Well, again, apropos, and very unfortunately, I mean, you think about the powers that be in the history of many things, especially Los Angeles. This is how it was.
Why is everyone working against Jack Nicholson's character
Right.
throughout
Right.
the entire film?
And you see that because, I mean, he gets a hit over the head with the crutch 100 times. He gets his nose cut. Like, he's everywhere he turns, he's getting beaten up. But why does he keep going?
How do you feel about? Do you think that Jake's reaction to seeing Evelyn? I guess we can do spoilers. So after Evelyn's killed,
gone
did
that
you
far.
feel that after they slept together that he had like a strong enough reaction? Because I know we had spoken before about you wishing that you had seen a little bit more of how they felt about one another. Because I mean, you have to figure like, this is someone they just slept together. Still
Right.
don't know each other, obviously, but like they just got a taste of one another. He's just finding out all of the trials and tribulations in her world, and then she's killed.
I think his reaction is proportional to how it's
yeah,
because he's not breaking down,
right,
but he is. We obviously see some passion. I think that's one of the best shots in the movie is when after she's been shot
yeah,
and they're running on the street.
Mhm.
I love that shot because it's with him.
The shot that gets Evelyn, I'm always like, wow,
Yeah.
that's like
yeah.
that's some sharp shooting. That's
Mm.
crazy.
Well, there's-
I'm like,
there's
how?
Foreshadowing to that earlier when they're in the car and she puts her head down on the horn, and then when he's looking at her and he finds the flaw, the
Oh.
black fleck in
Fleck.
her eye.
Right.
When she dies, she gets shot in the eye
eye.
and her head falls down.
I didn't even put that together. Look at you.
That's fair.
That's why I'm
Hey,
here.
that's why you're here.
That's why you're here.
But again, it's stuff like that you don't necessarily know until someone says it, and then you're like, "Oh my god, that
right
is
there.
so clever."
You've seen
That's
it
so
100
intricate.
times. Yeah.
The shaky when she's holding when she's holding the gun, and then it's like the shaky cam.
Right.
On all
Well,
the
that's right, and
pedestrians.
that's why I brought it up earlier, because I love shaky cam when it has a purpose.
Sure.
When it has a purpose there, and what it does is it creates distress, and
Absolutely.
in that moment it's utilized to the max, because it creates the distress, and
Yes,
at that
it
point you
does.
don't know how it's going to happen until she says that line.
Right.
He owns the police, and you're like, this is just not going to end well. But back to Jake's reaction rather.
Both.
Right, both in this case. It's proportional because he's not breaking down, but he's confused. He's conflicted. We see he's conflicted on how we should feel. He's obviously distraught.
Right. I
But-
mean, there's so much stimulation happening all
Right.
at once.
But
I
is he
mean,
distraught that she's gone, or is he distraught that he lost?
right? That evil won and that good did not prevail.
There's
Right.
nothing he can do.
And
Right.
it's over for him. Like, and
Yeah. Forget
you
about
see-
it, Jake. It's Chinatown.
Yeah. Amazing.
Did you want
Yeah.
to say it?
I did. But
Okay.
but it's as he's walking off, you see this. It's like, where does he go from here?
Well, and you can sense a little bit that he's torn.
Mm-hmm.
He knows there's nothing left for him to do here. But as he's leaving, you can see that slight resistance, when his partner's trying
doesn't
to
want
get
to
him
leave.
Right. I mean, it's again in not what's being told, but what's being shown.
Right.
Very powerful.
Yeah, and there's so many conflicting emotions that he's got to go through, and we see it. We see that he doesn't know how to feel.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's trying to go back, and his partner goes,
Yeah.
"Forget about it. It's Chinatown." And it's probably the best ending line to a movie ever.
I don't know. Some like it hot.
Casablanca.
Yeah.
Wow,
Some Like It
you
Hot's
could
a
do
great
You could
comedy.
do like a whole episode on like really fabulous endings because
Right.
there's some good ones.
Absolutely.
And that's, I think, sometimes what I love about, classic movies is that I think sometimes that's what I'm missing in contemporary cinema is just like those really wonderful endings, even if they're not necessarily happy, but it's just like that was the perfect bow to put atop.
Right, and it's
this.
almost like because it's not realistic enough for this generation of filmmakers.
Right.
There's a certain poeticness about it.
Well, that's why movies, move so fast now
Mm-hmm.
because in the first act, if there's not a big fight scene or an explosion, you lose like 60% of your audience.
Right.
People in classic movies and older films, it's a slower start.
Mhm.
It's a slow boil. So that's not as common in contemporary cinema because I think they feel the need again with that blockbuster ideal. You're thinking you need to move it along. You need to get to something big, something eye-catching. You need to have a nude scene with the two blockbuster actors,
Right.
But this doesn't feel the need to rush. It moves at a perfect pace that's fabulous.
It's a brilliant pace.
Yeah,
It really captures the genre of the film,
absolutely.
and what you want to see when you see it.
Right.
Yeah, and it's that's what it is. Movies, and I'm not trying to crap on all modern movies because there's some brilliant modern
Sure.
movies. I love Green Book. I think that it was an amazing movie. We reviewed The Irishman. I love The Irishman. But there is a certain lack of poeticness that old like Casablanca has. Because that's not it's not really a realistic movie,
Right.
but it doesn't have to be. And I
Right.
think we're so ingrained in realism now
Mhm.
that that type of thing suffers for it.
Sure.
Okay, so what's your favorite scene?
I really like the scene when we first meet Faye Dunaway. And Jack Nicholson is like trying to keep her in the room, and as she's leaving, of course, because she's always on her way out. And she, he's like, I just don't think you should be so tough on me. And she says to him, I'm not tough on anyone, Mr. Giddies. My lawyer is.
Yeah, that's a
I'm like, oh my
That's a good
God.
line.
Like, that's the epitome of like the film noir female, it's just like, because she's such a lady, but she's so,
so
she's
composed.
fabulous. What a wonderful introduction
Right.
scene.
When Jack Nicholson is driving away, when he's being chased by the men
horse.
on like horseback, I am so engaged in that scene. Like you really feel like
Well, it's
you're
realistic to his.
well,
to his
just
thing.
the way it's shot, like behind Jake in the car. Like you feel like you're escaping with him, and there's just no way to go. Like every single turn, there's just somebody around the
Right.
corner.
You got your head's on a swivel as you're watching it, and you're like,
Yeah.
It's high stakes.
100%.
It's really high stakes.
My favorites, and this is weird because you don't like action. You picked an action one, and action's not my favorite, but I do like action movies. Probably my favorite scene is when they exit the diner, and she's trying to like bring him back,
Right.
And just the way that scene is framed, where it's like, and it does it throughout the movie a lot, but it's like just them two, and it's pretty close, and they're just going at it.
Yeah.
They're fighting for what they want, and I just like the way it's framed, and I like how it's just textbook acting.
Yeah.
They're just fighting for what they want, and it's brilliant.
Did I already say that
You
it's
like jazz?
David Lynch's favorite film score?
I've never heard that.
Yeah, director David Lynch.
Wow.
It's his favorite film score of all time.
It's interesting. I would
Yeah.
think it would be something a little more weird.
Isn't that so interesting though that, because when we hear David Lynch, obviously we think contemporary, right? And isn't that so interesting that cinema and some of these classic things bring everyone in the industry together? It's like out of all the things he could have picked, it's Chinatown. I just think that's so, I love that.
Forget about it. It's Chinatown.
I can see similarities between like David Lynch films and Roman Polanski films.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely, they definitely capture like kind of like a seediness behind
Right,
everyday
behind
life.
it, yes.
Well, it's also like
people.
John Ford influenced Martin Scorsese a lot, and The Searchers is
Oh.
the basis behind
Great
Taxi
movie.
Driver.
Yes.
I didn't
So-
know that though.
But let's move on to our trivia game, which you've probably already
Ready
won.
to get smacked down.
So the
Yep.
first question, Jasmine already gets the point because
Well, let's do it again.
Jack Nicholson was dating whose daughter at the time of filming?
John Huston's.
Ding,
Yes,
ding, ding,
and
ding.
what was her name?
Angelica.
You don't get the point. It's over.
Why are you asking me then? Why are you giving me false hope?
We wanted me to make
I
sure it was
started
a
with
fair
saying that
race.
already. I started
Okay.
with Jasmine.
Why did you? Okay.
I need a buzzer.
True or false? Roman actually cut Jack's nose.
True.
False.
She
This
gets
is a movie. You took
it's
stage
Roman.
combat.
It's Roman.
but they did
Polanski.
start telling people that.
Right, because the props people were tired of explaining.
They
to
were all
people.
tired.
I would
explain
not
it.
be
That's me.
surprised if
I would do
Roman
that.
Polanski did something.
Right,
absurd.
he's weird. True or false? This was there was originally a voiceover narration.
True.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm gonna give both.
I
of you
hate
that.
voiceovers in movies.
I just
I
think
typically
they
do
have
too.
to be done really well.
And
because if
Scorsese-
not, I can do without them.
Scorsese does them well. Like
Yeah.
And if
Goodfellas.
not, it's like
Irishman,
just get out of here.
yeah. Narrations can really. And I think it would have killed this movie because
Yes,
you
it would've
learn
slowed
all
it
the
down.
clues.
You don't need it.
Yeah,
No,
no.
you don't need it.
You learn all the clues that when he learns them, and that's I think the way. That's exactly why he eliminated it because he wanted the audience to discover the clues as Jake did.
Absolutely.
True or false? Robert Towne originally wrote the screenplay with Jack Nicholson's Easy Rider co-star Peter Fonda in mind.
True.
False. Jack Nicholson was always the one in mind. It was Jane that was potentially in mind.
See,
for
I didn't even know that when I wrote that. That's kind of funny. That's
I
Yeah.
wanted. I wanted to be true.
Well, okay, more spicy tea.
Okay.
Okay, so Robert, see the producer and the writer are both named Robert. One is Robert Towne, one is Robert Evans. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna be mad that I don't remember which one is which.
Robert Towne's the screenplay, and Robert Evans
is the producer.
Okay.
I think it's Robert Towne. Then was married to Ally McGraw. Okay, of Love Story fame.
Yeah.
She was also slated to be. No, it must have. She was slated to also be considered for Evelyn's role, but when she had an
Interesting.
affair with Steve McQueen and they got a divorce, that's life. She got kicked
She
out
got
of the
kicked
running.
out of the movie.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine anyone but Faye Dunaway.
No,
Right.
I mean, like Ally McGraw has her own, wonderful stuff that she does. But yeah, Faye Dunaway was.
Yeah, and we really got to talk about Network at some point. That's
I'm
one of my
surprised
favorite
you
movies.
havened. I'm surprised you haven't.
It
I
just
thought that
started
was
this
Early days. It's early
know.
days.
I'm surprised we're talking about Chinatown this early. True or false? In 1937, I actually, before I started this, because I was doing some research and making some notes, I was like, this is really early to be doing China. I need to watch this movie like 4 or 5 more times.
That's
I'm
funny,
kind of
yeah.
scared.
I thought
agree.
this- yeah.
I agree. There's a lot behind it.
Well, maybe we'll revisit it one day.
We should watch Who Framed Roger Rabbit later on.
True or false? In 1937, which is when the movie is set, there was no Chinatown in Los Angeles.
True.
Yep.
And that was also the year Jack Nicholson was born. Isn't that funny?
Yep.
Wow.
Well, what would happen was that there was a certain amount of years that Chinatown was there.
Right.
There was one year that they kind of, I guess, were renovating it, and then it was there again.
Because if I remember, what's the movie with, I believe it's Robert De Niro from like 1980, Sergio Leone, like Once Upon
a Time in America?
Once Upon a Time in America. Now I always want to say Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but because there is like a sort of Chinatown in New York there, isn't there? And I don't know. That seems like it was in the 20s. Oh, in New York. Oh, in LA, New York. Okay.
Did you even watch the movie, bro?
But I thought Chinatown.
The man who is getting here's another trivia question. The man who is getting angry about who wants to build the dam at the beginning is played by Rance Howard, who is the father of which famous actor / director?
Oh, Ron Howard.
Yep. How did you not get that? Last question.
Yeah.
All or nothing. No, just kidding. You're already winning. You're already
No, all or nothing. I like all or nothing.
What famous director turned down the role to direct?
Oh God, I know this. Peter Bogdanovich.
Wow.
And then
even if it was all or nothing, it was over.
He regretted it for so long. I mean, obviously, who wouldn't? But it's hard to tell.
I don't think it would have been the same movie.
Well, of course not. Of course not.
Yeah,
I mean, if anyone had been slightly different, if any of the actors or directors, it would have been completely different.
The audience question is, so in that scene where John Huston and Jack Nicholson meet each other,
in
right?
Catalina?
Yep, we all know where we are.
Yes.
Hang on, where I gotta find.
Trivia round's over.
Yeah, trivia round. She already won. Like it's.
You know everything.
Like where's
you did your homework.
At least
you
about
did your
Chinatown.
homework.
So as Jack Nicholson's character is leaving, he tells him, "You don't answer this because you're going to know it. This is for the audience."
Got it. Okay.
It looked like you were about to ask
I know,
a question.
I did look at you, and then you
he regretted it immediately.
I did. Yeah. But Jack Nicholson says he's going to go look at what, and then later on you do see he is there, but there's a specific thing, and he leaves John Huston wondering why he's going to go look there and what does he say he's going to go look at. So I don't even know. Do you know what that is? You know what I'm talking about?
No. I'm trying to think. I'm like.
It's kind of specific because he says it, and then we get another shot of John Huston, and you see him think about it, like what could that mean? And then in the your favorite scene, that's where he's going to.
Well, I'm worried that you're going to say. Wait, so did you just give the?
No, I didn't give it away.
Did you give the answer?
Because he doesn't say anything about it, you just see it in the frame.
Okay.
What?
Mariachi band?
We can't answer
We can't answer the question.
Well, I don't think that was the answer to the
question. Are you sure? That sounds very familiar.
It's not the...
well,
anything else you want to say about Chinatown?
I think we did a really thorough...
I'm glad you think that.
I do. I think we bounced around quite chaotically, but I think in the midst of all of that, we, I don't know, one final thought, I suppose, since you're asking me. I think there's so much, there's so much crime, obviously, in this film, so much injustice, but I think the biggest injustice is against the city itself and the citizens in Los Angeles. You know what I mean?
Right.
The story theoretically is about water, so I think that.
Well, yeah, he gets so angry when he's like, "Your father owned the water."
Right. And I just think that that's so. I think that's also one of the reasons why I love it so much. I love movies that are sort of like love letters, if you will, to a Los Angeles that is no longer here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think that's another layer of why I enjoyed the film, is because it's set here and I love this city and I'm so intrigued by it and its secrets and the way that it started and how it came to be.
And I hate injustice. It's one of the big things. Ever since I was like little, and my mother noticed one day, says, "You just get so..." Because I argue a lot. Like I'll argue with
really? I had no
light
we should be a lawyer.
idea.
They thought I was going to be a lawyer for a long time, but my mom was like, "It's just you hate the injustice. Like you can't let anybody get away with something, even if it's like being a bigger person. It's like arguing over the stupidest things, but so I hate injustice.
Yeah,
and it's one of the reasons why I love the end of this movie.
Right.
Is because it's something I love to hate. No, I hate to love. I hate to love. Something I hate to love. I want to thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thanks for
It's been a
having
pleasure.
me. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure, and we'll have you back on. And
To discuss Billy Wilder.
Absolutely.
Possibly.
I have lots of
Who
fun
knows?
facts about that too.
Yeah, that's great. Forget about it, Jake. It's Chinatown.
Like at the movie, till the screen goes dark.